Hey everyone, it's Jakov, and I'm here today with another video for Total War The Dawnless Days. Today's video being a battle replay video. In today's video, I'm going to be leading an army of the Easterlings against the defending force of Dale. Dale in this case will be being played by the computer. This is more of kind of like a test video to kind of show off different army builds and types of enemies they could be expected to face off against. In this case, this Easterling army in particular is actually a Variag force, which is one of the sub-factions of the Easterling. So every unit in this army is a Variag unit, and the Dale force it's going up against is a bit more of a mixed army, kind of like a cobbled together one. My headcanon for this video is that the Variags have decided to raid Dale, and as such a Variag forces marching on Dalian territory, and in response the men of Dale have gathered a bit of a hodgepodge force to defend, which is why this force is going to look pretty unique in terms of the units that it's fielding, but we'll get to that first. In fact, we're actually going to put the battle into slow motion so we can check out both armies. Before we do, I would like to ask you guys to like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing. I know it might not seem like much to you, but for a small channel it is massively appreciated. With that said, let's put the video into slow motion and begin the battle. So, looking at the Variag army, for a general unit I decided to pick the Bane of the Steppes, the command unit fielded by the Eastlings. The reason why I decided for these guys to be the general unit instead of the Warlords of Rune or such is because this unit aesthetically matches the Variags much better, and I believe it's meant to be a Variag unit more so than anything else. So yeah, heavy command unit. Then in the front lines we've got 3 units of the Variag warriors, these medium shock infantry. So these guys will be making up the offensive part of my army. So then alongside them we've got the Variag bowmen, who are heavy bow infantry who can double as both infantry and archers to kind of strengthen up my infantry forces a bit. Then on the far flank of the army over here we've got the Kandri sentries, which are the lightest infantry that the Variags of Khan can field, and these guys are skirmishers who can also fight in combat somewhat. One thing you'll note is that this army is actually missing any line infantry, so it doesn't have any spearmen or axemen or swordsmen. Everything in terms of heavy infantry, the only infantry it's got are the Variag warriors, and units that can double as infantry. And then the final portion of this army, we have 3 units of the Variag lancers to give the army a bit of mounted support. Then turning over to the Dalian force mounted up on this mountain, in front of them they've deployed defensive measures, so they've got stakes and caltrops and the like to try and thwart any frontal assault. Then in front of their army they've got a unit of the Marksmen of Dale, their tier 3 professional archers. Then next to them they've got the Vinland Yard Patrollers, which are part of the subdivision of, and I always forget these guys' names, Rhovanion, yeah, the winemakers of Middle-earth, which fall under the Dale faction. So yeah, I figured for this battle that Rhovanion would throw in a couple of their men to try and help Dale. Then behind them we've got a unit of the Lake Town Guards, again a hastily assembled force, so you've got quite a mix of units. Then behind them you've got a couple units of the Shipmen, which are the tier 2 infantry for Dale, so pretty tough infantry but not quite as tough as some of the other units. Then providing support for the Shipmen over here we've got the Elite Vinland Guard, which is a gold tier unit, so I felt a little bit of extra muscle wouldn't hurt I should say. Then over on this flank we've got a unit of the Merchant Escorts, which are the tier 2 cavalry fielded by the faction. Then behind them we've got a unit of the Vinland Watchmen, which are medium pike infantry, the only pikemen that Dale can field, who I thought would be a fairly good match for the cavalry. And then in the second tier of the army we've got a unit of the Dalian Spear Guards, the professional spearmen of Dale. And then moving down we've got the Watchpost Sentries, which are their tier 2 spearmen, more on the lighter side, a more militia unit, but I figured it makes sense for there to be a fair few of these guys given the scratch nature of the force. More of them, more shipmen, any other swordsmen? Nope. And then on this side even more Watchpost Sentries. To cap it off, another unit of Merchant Escorts. And then finally the general unit for the faction, the Rhovanion Regents, who I picked mostly because the area of Rhovanion is closer to the Easterlings and the Variags than Dale itself, although Dale is a notable target of the Easterlings, so I figured it kind of makes sense to have a bit more of a mixed Rhovanion force led by a Rhovanion unit rather than just a general Dalian army. With that said, actually, though, given how distant the armies are, I'm probably going to press fast forward and we'll skip to both armies are closer to fighting each other. See you then. We're going to return back to the battle as it seems both armies are getting ready to engage. The Variag force is climbing up the hill trying to flank the Dalian army, trying to avoid the spikes and stakes and all the like. Going quite slowly up the mountain. Looking at the balance of power, the Easterling force that I was fielding was smaller by a couple hundred, but in general it was fairly balanced. Actually, I'm just going to press play and see how both armies go. So now both sides are beginning to deploy. The Dalian forces moving up to the crest of the hill, given they were hiding behind it. And it begins. The merchant escorts are trying to target the Bane of the Steppes, and the Bane of the Steppes is counter-charging. And here we have it. The first bit of battle. Now, in all honesty, this battle could kind of go either way. And the Variag warriors join in, but they're being hit hard by the archers. The rest of the Variag warriors are deploying up ahead, trying to charge into the Dalian infantry to hold the line. And there we go. Both sides get stuck into it. This unit of swordsmen swings around just in time to get hit by arrow fire. Over here, the Variag lancers remain. What unit was that? The merchant escorts pull back as another unit of merchant escorts gets stuck in, but is called out by the other unit of Variag lancers. It's a 2v1 fight right now. Both sides more or less having their cavalry on this flank disengaged. The infantry of the Variags is trying to hold up the Dalian infantry. However, some of their spearmen get through and engage the sentries in hand-to-hand combat, which is kind of a result of not having enough line infantry due to the limits of 3 units per army. Over here, these shipmen and spearmen are trying to ward off the cavalry, so the cavalry instead turns around. Cavalry charges straight into the pikemen who are out of formation. And even though it is a risk for the general safety being deployed against pikemen, it kind of makes sense in this situation that they are out of formation to try and cause as much damage as possible. They pull out and they go back to fighting off against this unit of merchant escorts. The other 2 cavalry units swing by, and do they join or do they move on? Because now the pikemen are running down to join the fight, and all the cavalry decides to somewhat pull out, which is smart. Leaving the Bane of the Steppe in that fight isn't a great idea. However, the pikemen now get caught out a bit by another unit of Variag lancers. And moving back to the front line, one unit of the Variag warriors seems about to break, fighting hand-to-hand with the Lake Town guards. And the merchant escorts charging in and out. Over here, the Kandu sentries are fighting hand-to-hand with the watchpost sentries. And due to being better warriors, more or less winning, although the heavy archer fire from the Dalian force is having an effect. Over here, the swordsmen are fighting against the Kandu sentries, as are the watchpost sentries. And yeah, here I'd say the skirmishers and the archers are definitely on the back foot, being forced to fight hand to hand. Now the cavalry charges in. And over here we've got more bowmen who are trying to open fire, provide range support to try and limit the effect of the merchant escorts and their infantry. Over here we've just got a massive cavalry clash. And this one unit of merchant escorts is doing amazingly, all things considered. The Dalian spear guards deploy to try and ward off the Variag cavalry, and it works. I pull them out of there. Yeah, still only 18 casualties for fighting a 4v1, and the spearmen catch out a few, but they get charged right into. I'm really honest, this was a pretty big mistake on my part. Although you will admit, as you watch it, these spearmen held on really damn well, despite being surrounded on all sides by cavalry, with the support of some of their cavalry. A unit of watchpost sentries breaks, cavalry charging again. Both sides units are getting absolutely mauled. The archers are still firing as much as possible. A unit of Khandish sentries is shattered and pulls out of the fight. Another unit is very much on the verge of going, and the archers are doing their absolute darndest to break the merchant escorts. The watchpost sentries join the fight again. Now the Khandish sentries take the spearmen in the rear, but that cavalry, which while wavering is still on the battlefield, is going to charge and hit them in the rear. And a unit of shipmen pulls in to try and support the fight, crashing into the Variag bowmen. And yeah, things are still going kind of evenly. This unit of Variag warriors returns to the fight. These two over here are absolutely hammering away at the watchpost sentries. This unit is kind of left behind as a sacrificial lamb to hold back the merchant escorts and the spearmen, while the rest of the cavalry force deploys to go after the Vinland Yard patrollers. And the main reason why I targeted these guys was because if I went into the rear of these dudes, I figured that I'd be vulnerable to archer fire into my rear. And in fact, you're going to see that. So they charge in, and they're going to get shot up right now. So it's a case of, is freeing up these units as important as potentially losing my general? So over here, the archers are doing their damnedest to hold the line. The Rhovanion Regents are charging in and out, trying to do their best to shatter the Variag bowmen, who are firing at point blank range into the flanks of the what unit is this? The Lake Town Guards and the Vinland Guards. Now the cavalry is charging to try and get rid of the archers, and I fear this is yet again where I made a mistake. Just because it split my forces into two, which meant that I concentrate the bulk of my firepower in one decisive area. So here you'll see these three units here are doing a great job, but now they're going to get caught in the flank by the merchant escorts. And I believe they've shattered, or on the verge of shattering. So a few enemy units pull out of the fight, but even over here, the Variag bowmen are almost gone. And over here, we've got one last smattering of support just raining down fire. So it's very much a down to the last little bit kind of fight. The Vinland Guards return, which for such a tough unit is quite a threat. And then pulling back over here, a massive cavalry brawl has ensued with all three of the Variag Lancer units and the general trying to go after the Rhovanion Regent. But the Rhovanion Regent has broken the Bane of the Steppe, meaning that my army is now functioning at quite a disadvantage with one of their cavalry units about to break, and the archers are doing their best to shatter the unit. However, the Rhovanion Regents are pulling out due to the overwhelming number of horsemen there. As you can see, like, really both armies are using the absolute last of what they have left to win. These Variag warriors cut a bloody swath through the watchpost sentries. And over here, these archers open fire on the Vinland Guard, trying to absolutely reduce the unit before we can reach them. And they shatter just in time. And then these shipmen break too. I will admit, here I made a bit of a mistake. I should have focused all of their fire continuously onto the shipmen. Like, breaking this unit would have been a really good idea. Because now these spearmen are about to crash into them. And if only I kept them locked in for that little bit longer. And here we've got it. A brawl between the Variag warriors and the Variag bowmen against a handful of Dalian spear guard and the merchant escorts. Both armies are down to the last couple hundred, and you can absolutely see the devastation here. Corpses everywhere litter the battle, kind of showing the course of the fight. However, over here the cavalry is still going strong, but well, as I say that, both units are about to go. The Vinland Yard patrollers have joined the fight, and the Rhovanion regions have taken significant casualties, but the unit is still in the fight. The marksmen of Dale finally shatter, and the balance of power shifts more and more in favour of the... And well, there we have it. A valiant defeat for the Variag force, and by extension me. So as I said in my previous video, I don't always upload videos where I win. I do sometimes lose, even if I am playing against a computer. And in this case I was a bit sloppy and made a few miscalls. Should have played a little bit tighter, kept my cards closer to my chest as it were, and I may have come out ahead. We'll finish off the replay and we'll check out both armies. So if you look at my army, we lost most of it with only 211 surviving. Looking at the enemy army, which was larger, they came out of it with almost 400 warriors surviving. Looking at my units, the Bane of the Steppes didn't do too bad with 105 kills. This unit of Variag warriors got 304, which is absolutely amazing. 204 and 147 for these guys. Better than I could have hoped for. 96 kills for the bowmen, 54 and 53. It's not too great. 136 for these skirmishers is amazing. 67 and 76 for these guys isn't that great either. 121 and 150 is quite good, well, if not very good actually, but 42 for these guys, a bit disappointing. So yeah, some of the units could have scored better, but in general I think the units put up quite a good fight. Then looking at the Dalian force, the Rhovanion regions got 72 kills, and they were fighting my general units, so they did get high quality kills. The shipmen got 129 and 162 apiece, which is quite good. Vinland Guards got 140, very good. Watch Post Sentries, 232 kills, that's amazing by any metric for such a low ranked unit. 72 for these guys and 36 for these guys. Not great at all, but still, you know, doing that little bit. 78 for the Dalian Spear Guards, it's not too great. 85 for the Lake Town Guards, much the same. 18 for the Vinland Watchmen isn't good at all. 90 for the Yard Patrollers, and the 59 for the Marksmen of Dale isn't much, but they did their part by pinning down my cavalry. And then 177 for these Merchant Escorts is amazing. 62 for these guys isn't that good. So anyways, guys, there we have it. A battle showcase of a Variag force against a disparate Dalian army. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, as I mentioned before. It might not seem like much on your half, but for me, it really means the world. Now, that in mind, I will be making more videos for the future on this mod as well as other mods, so rest assured there will be more battle replay showing off different army builds and different scenarios, including actually some battle scenarios straight from Lord of the Rings itself. Anyways, guys, with all that said, this is your host, Jakov, signing out.